Greetings and welcome to the informational webinar on the Master of Arts in Science Education at the University of Northern Iowa. So let's get started. So I am Dr. Dawn Del Carlo. I am the program coordinator. Officially, my appointment is in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and then I am part of the interdisciplinary science education program. And so I contribute to that both at the undergraduate and graduate levels. So that is the face behind the voice for today. So quick agenda about sort of where we're going and what we're going to cover. So why should you choose UNI Online? We'll talk about a quick program overview and some of the features, how instruction is provided and delivered, possible career outcomes if you're looking for, what can I get out of this degree, tuition and financial aid, at least as it stands now, and then next steps if you are interested in applying. So here we go. So why UNI Online? So first and foremost, flexibility and accessibility. So this program specifically is designed for current teachers. We know that you are busy individuals. You've got careers yourself, full-time jobs. Often you have families, kids, pets, that sort of thing. So we are aware of all of the other demands on your time. As such, we have personalized support services. There's a dedicated program staff in our online and distance education office that actually helps specifically with our program to get you registered, get you squared away, get your application processed, so on and so forth. We engage in what's called a high touch distance learning experience. So not only do you interact directly with faculty in the program, but you also have access to that support staff in online and distance education. And then similarly, there's comprehensive services to support you essentially from the time that you say that you are interested in this program all the way through graduation and beyond. We often have students reach back out to us as faculty and to other students who were in the program with them because they've built those support structures and those networks as they continued through. So we also really focus on lifelong learning, and we're not just here to get you a degree. We actually want you to take the information that you gain from this program moving forward. So that type of thing actually profoundly changes lives both professionally and personally. And UNI is actually a respected institution, especially when it comes to pre-service and in-service teacher education. It is relatively affordable when you think about what you're getting, and there is financial aid available. Furthering your education is an investment, and if you are a current teacher, you know that there is future earning potential with that higher degree. So, what is our program specifically all about? So we actually have a fairly flexible program structure. So there are electives that are built into the coursework that you can use to apply towards endorsements that you might be working towards, whether they be in basic science, chemistry, computer science, or space, physics, or a STEM endorsement. We also often have teachers that are looking to build or work towards being certified to offer dual enrollment credit at their high schools, and so these can also be applied towards that. Because we have this content background, we do want you to build and enrich your foundation in science content, as well as how that science content can be applied in the classroom using research-based pedagogical best practices that align with the next generation science standards. Now, we recognize that not everybody has adopted all of the next gen science standards, but that is the foundation that a lot of state standards are actually currently using. And then our program is actually pretty flexible with regard to how long it takes you to complete. So baseline, we're looking at about 2.5 years if you kind of cram all of the courses together. But if for financial or time management purposes, you need to take a little bit longer, you can certainly adjust the number of electives that you take each term to sort of spread that out. So we often have students that will take 4 years or so because they're working on their master's part-time while they teach full-time, especially if they have families or they coach or they've picked up other activities that they're involved in with their school. So we do have a bit of flexibility in that regard with completing the program. So our course and delivery, we do have both online and hybrid options. So all of the required courses that everybody who goes through the program has to take are offered online via Zoom, interactive video conferencing, and then those synchronous components are offered in the evenings during the school year, and then during the summer, sometimes in the evening, sometimes during the day, just kind of depending on the availability of the instructor and also sometimes the availability of the students. So those required courses are all offered online but synchronously. So there is this component where you have to show up, all meet together on Zoom. Additionally, the courses are supported using Blackboard. So assignment submission, that's essentially just our learning management system. And then depending on which electives students choose to take, some of those electives are offered asynchronously, some are offered synchronously with the Zoom conferencing, video conferencing system. Some are actually offered in a blended version where maybe you have a couple of synchronous meetings and then maybe there's an on-campus workshop for you to get the hands-on experience with the activities or the labs or whatever it is that you're actually engaging in. So those electives actually vary widely, but those requirements, how that course is being offered, is actually described in the course description. So you know going in whether or not you're going to be able to do this in person, asynchronously, whether or not you have to show up, what time you have to show up, those kinds of things. So that's actually quite clear. So you do have some flexibility there. So in theory, the entire course could be done online from a distance. Or if you are closer to campus and you want to participate in a campus-based workshop of some sort, you also have that ability, and those will still count towards the program as well. So what are those course requirements? So essentially, regardless of whether or not you choose the thesis or the non-thesis option, we have both of those options available. It is a 30 credit program. The core courses, which are essentially all of the required courses that everyone has to take, that is 16 credits, regardless of which path you take. And then everyone also has to take 6 credits of science content electives. Beyond that, there's another either 5 or 2, again, depending on thesis or non-thesis, additional electives. So these could be additional science credits. These could be maybe educational psychology courses. These could be social emotional learning courses. We've had students take a wide variety of different electives just depending on what they're interested in. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in those electives. Then, as part of the ending final project, you take 3 or 6 credits of research, and this is when you are working towards completing your final culminating project and paper. So if it's a thesis option, that tends to be a little bit more involved, and so there are 6 credits of research associated with that, whereas the non-thesis option is 3. So elective coursework, as I mentioned previously, can be taken concurrently with those required courses or spread out. So if you're looking to actually have a less intense program that's spread out over maybe 3 or 4 years, you can spread out those electives as opposed to jamming everything into 2 years. And then that final project that I mentioned is actually designed around the student interest, and is conducted one-on-one with guidance from a faculty advisor. So the whole idea with this is that we want students to be able to come up with some sort of project where we're collecting data, we're analyzing that data, that's relevant to that students' interest. So oftentimes it's a classroom-based sort of project where you're either implementing a new curriculum or you're designing new assessments. Sometimes it's actually programmatic. We've had students do projects that look at their PLCs and evaluate the effectiveness of their PLCs. So it really does depend on what the student is interested in, and then the faculty member guides them through that. The other thing that I did want to mention is that these particular numbers of credits actually reflect changes that will go into effect in spring of 2026. And so because of that, it might not actually be reflected on all of the informational websites quite yet. We're working on it. Sometimes we just got to wait for things to go through officially before we can kind of announce them in other places. So what are these core courses, right? So these 16 credits of core courses include a wide variety of courses that are offered on a 2-year sequence. So any of the courses that are listed here will actually circle back around in 2 years, and be offered again. So for example, in the fall of 2025, we're offering Science Ed 6500 Research Methods in Science Education. That course will be offered again in the fall of 2027. Right? And so then the research that follows that in the spring of 26 actually follows directly from that research methods class. The research methods class actually really scaffolds for students what their culminating project or what their MA project will be about. And then the spring of 26 allows them that time and opportunity to really build that project, whether it's to collect the data, analyze data, wrap it up, that sort of thing. And so we've got that spring semester sort of set aside for that purpose. Additionally, if you start in a spring of 2026 or 2028 or so on and so forth, this is also an opportunity where you could take electives as opposed to that research credit. And then we also have courses in the history, philosophy, nature of science, teaching and learning models in science education, developing science curriculum, which will shortly be renamed contemporary science curriculum, and then trends and issues in science education. So like I said, all of these are on a 2-year cycle. None of them are prerequisites for the other than the fact that the research methods course in science education probably should come before the research credit, simply because that's that first course actually sets you up for the research. So that's why you could do electives at that point. So, what are our graduates prepared for, and what do they go on to do? So, we have a lot of alumni who just continue on in the classroom as highly qualified practitioners. Like this is sort of what the program is designed to do. But then, in addition to that, we have several that have moved into administrative or state agency roles, whether they be science curriculum directors, sometimes they're science department heads, those kinds of things. And then we've had others that actually go on to pursue additional graduate work, whether it be a PhD or an EdD. If that is something that they are really interested in, that is definitely, the master's degree is definitely something that sets them up for success in that as well. So we are actually nationally ranked as a program of online and distance education. So distance education as a whole, 97% of the students who have gone through our online and distance education programs would recommend them to others. 95% are satisfied or highly satisfied with the support services that online and distance education actually provides. And then in 2025, we were recognized as a top online Masters in Education program by US News and World Reports. So just a little nod to our accomplishments there. So here's the nitty gritty. So tuition and financial aid. So these are actually the tuition and fees reflected for the 25-26 school year. And so these might change, right, as adjusted by our Iowa Board of Regents. And so because it's a distance education program, tuition is actually charged on a per credit basis. So it's $586 per credit. And then every time you take a course, it's $46. So a 3 credit course versus a 2 credit course is still going to be $46. It's just one course. Every time you take a course, there is this technology fee associated with it. There is a graduate publication fee. So as a graduate student, there are publication processing fees when it for your final project, sort of at the end. And it's only charged once, and it's charged during your first term. So we don't have to worry about taking care of that at the end. And then at the end, there is a records and document fee. It is a one-time fee. It covers all of the fees associated with analyzing and reviewing your transcript and getting it ready for certification. And then also you get free transcripts for life. So that $115 fee covers all of that. And so if you ever need to request an official transcript from UNI, that is taken care of already. So we do actually have financial aid and scholarships available. There is a $2,000 online and distance education scholarship. The link for that is there. There is additional financial aid available for federal financial aid. I will say one caveat is that full-time teachers actually often struggle to meet the minimum number of credits required to qualify for financial aid. So that is definitely something to keep in mind as you're going through the program. And additionally, there are science education specific scholarships that are not listed here. And those are actually solicited every spring. All students receive an email from me, the graduate coordinator, saying that applications are open. And so there is some financial support opportunities there as well. So a couple of testimonials from our alumni. Casey Clark graduated in 2023. He didn't think twice about getting his master's from anywhere else. We do all come from different areas of science. So as I mentioned, my appointment is in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, but we've also got 2 faculty with appointments in the Department of Physics, another faculty in Earth Science, and then a 5th in biology. So we are not just education professors. We actually have experience teaching the content, the same content that our students teach. And then Maury Haig, who's actually currently in the Iowa Governor's STEM Advisory Council. Although she was a teacher at the time that she went through our program, she says that the program equipped her in achieving her goals as a STEM advocate, which is sort of where she went off to. And so she knew that she wasn't necessarily going to stay in the classroom, but she wanted to be able to broaden her knowledge base to sort of help other STEM educators bring that high quality science to their classrooms. So that gives you an idea of some, like I said, some stay in the classroom, others move on to other things. So your next steps, make sure your questions have been answered. So I will leave contact information. The contact information for everybody is on the next slide. So if you have any questions, definitely please reach out and let us know. And then complete your application. So we've got 3 different application deadlines depending on which term you wish to start taking classes. So if you're looking to start in the spring, that application deadline is December 15th. May 1st is our deadline for a summer start, and then August 1st is the deadline for starting in the fall. The application, in addition to the application form itself, we request a resume or curriculum vitae that has some information on there about where you're currently certified to teach or working towards certification, employment history, and then the names and contact information for a couple of references. And then an applicant statement, and the prompts for that applicant statement are actually in the application portal, so you can see what we're asking you to address. One thing to note is that you can start the application, save your work, and then come back to that. So this does not all have to be done in one fell swoop. Lastly, any previous educational institutions that you have earned credits from, you will need to have official transcripts sent directly to the Office of Admissions. So this includes undergraduate transcripts, any additional graduate coursework that you have taken over your time since then. And then official transcripts means that the granting institution is the one that actually sends the transcripts directly to UNI. So if you have a copy and you upload a copy, that's considered an unofficial transcript, which is fine for review purposes. But before you can be fully admitted into the program, you need to have those official transcripts actually sent and submitted. So here is our contact information. As I said, my name is Dawn Del Carlo. I am the program coordinator. Here is my email for that program coordinator, and then my phone number if you prefer sort of the old school telephone. And then Angie Wolf is actually our enrollment contact. Angie Wolf is the one that makes sure that everybody is registered in the courses they need to be registered in, processes those enrollment forms, so on and so forth. And so anything that related to online and distance education at UNI can be directed at Angie. Her email is there, and then her phone number is there. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thanks for watching.